All right, guys, thanks again for joining us. This is Cats Pajamas with HD here, and we are broadcasting another match, bonus coverage out of the IPL Season 2 qualifiers. This is week number 1 matchup between Nerchio, our blue Zerg down here in the bottom left-hand corner, Xel'Naga Caverns, and WhiteRa. WhiteRa, my favorite player in the whole wide world. He is our red Protoss. Not biased at all, HD. I figured I'd just put that out there.
Yeah, man, WhiteRa has always been a fan favorite and a favorite of mine, actually, for a very long time. I'm excited to be casting here. Once again, like you said, the bonus coverage of the IPL. And this is going to be a Zerg versus Protoss on everybody's favorite map, Xel'Naga Caverns. And I cannot wait to get this series underway. Nerchio has really been coming up lately as a really big name in StarCraft 2. I've actually casted a couple of games of him before playing against TLO, and he's really impressed me with his Zerg play.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be in store for a pretty good brawl here on Xel'Naga.
Absolutely. He's definitely a very solid player. Yeah, because Xel'Naga has these really weird dynamics to him. It's hard to take expansions. The natural expansion, you have to watch out for attacks from John the Translator's Common Knowledge Hallway, from the cliff area around the Destructible Rocks. Very easy for Protoss players to hide pylons and warp units on the high ground. There's multiple attack paths through the natural.
Yeah.
You have to watch out for harassment around the sides. So for Zerg, who wants to be the expanding race, makes it very difficult to get those subsequent bases. Once you hold on to your natural, you're okay, but up until that point can be really, really risky.
Yeah, equally for the Protoss too, who goes for an expansion at their natural. It's easy for a Zerg player to kind of flood in Zerglings, and it's really up to the Protoss to make sure they have a nice little Tetris-style building which prevents and basically blockades off any attacks or any floods of Zerglings or anything like that. So it is a very dynamic map, and I'm sure everybody knows this map very well already, as it's been in StarCraft 2 since the beta. But I'm interested to see how this game is going to play out. WhiteRa is always a great player to watch. He has a lot of innovative strategies, and he's able to adapt his playstyle very quickly to whatever threats the opponent tries to field on the map. It looks like he is choosing not to wall in here, which is very intriguing. And ooh, the drone there blocks the cybernetics core, finally able to get the cyber core down. And I can only assume that WhiteRa is going to opt to finish that blockade off with another gateway, but it's very intriguing that he decided not to place his first gateway at the ramp.
Yeah, the positioning there suggests he thought, I mean, obviously, you know, Nerchio was playing under Destinier, and I don't know if this is a friend's account or something like that on the North American server. He just doesn't have a North American account, or maybe this is his alias over here. I apologize if I'm not as well versed in that as I should be, folks. But so I don't know if WhiteRa just didn't know that his opponent wasn't Zerg or what the case is. I'm sure there's like 2 kids that are like super fans of WhiteRa that are sitting back there like, nah, you don't know. He just does this every time. This is his strategy. No, what I really want to see, though, out of WhiteRa, though, is if he detects any weakness, go for that Warp Prism play. There we go. Finally, another gateway's put down, but that allows so many Zerglings in.
Wow.
And Nerchio, he's going to be able to get a full scout, sees the 2 gateways, knows that WhiteRa hasn't gone to a second gas.
Wow, that was amazing right there. And actually, the thing right there was WhiteRa decided to kill the Extractor with his initial Zealot, and most Protoss players will opt to block the ramp off with that first Zealot rather than attack an Extractor. So actually, the Extractor there allowed Nerchio to get 4 Zerglings in, do a quick peek and scout, and make sure there weren't any funky buildings going up. So right now, Nerchio has a full scout off on WhiteRa's base, and WhiteRa is actually the one who's kind of operating in the dark, but he's going to rectify that right now with this probe that it's going to mosey on in, and it will see the Roach Warren.
I like what Nerchio's doing here. He's going for very quick roaches. WhiteRa is opting for a pretty standard 3-gate expand, it looks like. Now, he did have his gas stolen, so he's not going to have quite the sentry count he would like, but this is still a pretty predictable 3-gate sentry expand. Looks like he does have a pylon coming down. There's the 400 resources, and there's the Nexus. All right, so WhiteRa with that 3-gate expand, he does have the potential to fall prey to very early Roachling all-in style play out of Nerchio, if that's what he wants to go with. Now, if he's able to hold this off at all, though, it's going to put WhiteRa at a very significant economic advantage, because Nerchio will probably not be going to another base with this very heavy Roachling style.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you right there, Cats. It looks like WhiteRa is going to be throwing down a Forge at his front here, and I like this. This is what Protoss players want to do. Make sure they block off that natural expansion and prevent any possibility of Zerglings leaking in, and you will probably see WhiteRa kind of make a diagonal line with his buildings to finish that blockade off with whatever buildings he decides to throw down. And I like how he's got his sentries out kind of little amount of sentries. We would expect to see more, and that's because his first gas was stolen by Nerchio early on in the game. So I think right now Nerchio's kind of got a small edge, and we actually have a lot of roaches being made right now by Nerchio. We may actually see a 2-base roach bust here. Which is like a mass amount of roaches, and that would be very interesting if Nerchio can make that happen.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's what's going to come out. He has enough gas that he'll be able to make another 3 or 4 or 5 roaches, and then he's just going to follow it up with mass lings, run at his opponent's base, and hope he can just bust him right away. WhiteRa, on the other hand, though, he has an enormous number of units ready, and he's going to be able to increase his production cycle. He's going up to Robo as well. He's got the photon cannon in place, so with good positioning and good force fields, he'll be okay.
Whoa.
Guardian Shield actually goes down.
Somebody must have pushed the G button by accident there. Or maybe I don't know why we would throw up a Guardian Shield like that.
I like, though, that was absolutely an accident, like you said,
Yeah.
But I like how he poked forward, just try to see if there was any units out there that he could take advantage of while that Guardian Shield was down. However, here comes Nerchio, Roachling all in time. He does have an expansion following this up, and he needs to do some serious economic damage for this to count.
Yeah, the nice thing that I like about this is he's not doing this without a backup. He is going to fall back into an expo, even if this should fail, but he really needs to do damage because he's invested so much in these roaches and lings. Great forest fields right there. Look at those roaches. They have to take the long way around right now. I don't even know if they have access to attack those stalkers and those sentries. So right now, Nerchio's attack really hasn't done that much damage, only killed off about 2 or 3 probes, and those force fields are doing a lot of damage, but now the Zerglings are coming in. I think WhiteRa's forces may actually be surrounded, and they may actually all go down, but remember, there's a cannon in the back there, which is providing so much backup firepower.
Yeah,
that's 4 kills already.
That cannon is doing a beautiful amount of damage. That forces Nerchio around the long way to go ahead and pick off some probes. I actually want to take a look at the probe count as all this is going on. Yeah, we actually have a significant economic advantage out for Nerchio at this point, so it is going to be up to WhiteRa now to try and move back in and do as much damage as he can. Looks like the last roach is going to go down. Probe does not quite fall. However, Nerchio following this up with another bunch of Zerglings. WhiteRa is probably going to have to establish a Robo Bay here pretty soon, but he does have one Immortal out. Here comes Nerchio back. He's going to move in, and that Immortal trying to do its damage, but a few more probes are going to go down. WhiteRa still with more kills on this Photon Cannon, but Nerchio, he doesn't quite make its way in because the Zealot is already sitting there ready to do its damage. That's going to force Nerchio back, and that actually, I gotta say, WhiteRa actually mitigating the damage there quite well.
WhiteRa did that, executed the defense beautifully right there. He warped in a Zealot at the very last second to block off his front ramp so he couldn't allow those Zerglings to flood in. He was able to mitigate, like you said, all the damage and really made it so he didn't lose any probes. In fact, he basically main-arded all of his probes from his natural to his main and saved the majority of them. So he's not down by that many Harvesters. About 19 right now, but he's definitely still in this game, and I would like to see WhiteRa eventually make a move out here. He can't really be the one that's constantly playing the defense, and he is moving an obs now through the center of the map, and I think as soon as he scouts his opponent and sees what he's doing, once he sees the 3rd expansion and all those drones there, he is going to be making a push out.
Yeah, and he does see, like you said, he saw all the drones moving over, so he knows there's a 3rd base up. There's no question about that. Now, WhiteRa is actually significantly ahead in tech at the moment. Because Nerchio was forced to go for that roach, or not forced, but opted to go for the Roachling all in. He didn't get speed. He didn't get any of these upgrades we see coming up. He wasn't able to establish the lair, infestation pit, anything along those lines. And it looks like that WhiteRa, with his higher tech units, has the ability to hold off quite a force of lower tech units. And right now, Nerchio has a lot of damage to do before he's able to get through these destructible rocks. And already we see roaches, support roaches going down, drones going down. Now the force field's being dropped, forcing Nerchio the long way around. And it looks like WhiteRa's going to pick off this base, and that just neutralized most of the economic damage that he suffered from Nerchio's first attack.
Great play right there by WhiteRa. Like I said, moving out there, attacking that hatchery. I like what Nerchio's doing here, basically moving his roaches here and taking out those proxy pylons in the center and basically killing off any reinforcing units so that Protoss ball doesn't become unmanageable. So Nerchio's still in a pretty decent spot. He did lose his hatchery, but if you look at that army tab, he has a significant army advantage right now. So he can actually squeeze WhiteRa's army if he can get a good surround. He has a lot of roaches. I would like to see more links in this composition. Here we go. Nerchio moving in, getting past the force fields, and actually not choosing to attack. He's actually going to flee away from those Stalkers and Zealots.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the force field, it stopped any subsequent reinforcements, but it didn't really do anything but trap all the roaches to him. So either WhiteRa was very, very confident that he was going to be able to crush through that roach force, or that was just a mistake. So WhiteRa actually has a good number of forces up. He is still down by 40 supply. At this point, though, with his tech advantage, it's not going to matter a whole lot. The supply differential, he mostly just has to hold off waves of attacks until he can establish his tech a little bit further. Now, those, on the other hand, are beautiful force fields. He does actually trap about half of the roaches' forces. The other roaches the long way around. Looks like they'll get themselves an immortal kill, though, which is certainly no small victory for Nerchio. Nerchio does take that out, runs away with his very fast roaches. He is going to run into a group of Stalkers, though. Those Stalkers positioning their way back. And WhiteRa, he is actually going to take down the rest of these forces. Nerchio coming back in, though, with a big group of roaches. Is WhiteRa have enough to hold this off? I think he does, and that's actually going to help catch him up in supply quite a bit. So yeah, he does force the rest of those units away.
I really like how WhiteRa here is using his force field so intelligently and being able to carve that Zerg army in half, because right now Nerchio is only building roaches, Cats, and that leaves you vulnerable to those force fields when they slice your army in half. So that's really negating Nerchio's army advantage. Nerchio might have 40 army supply advantage, but it really doesn't matter when those force fields are able to cut those roaches in half. And note, those roaches do not have burrow, they do not have burrowed movement, they can't bypass the force field, so they're extremely limited in their usage. But right now Nerchio is going to try to rectify that by getting Infestors out. And I like Infestors. Fungal Growth can really keep that Protoss army stuck in one location, which is going to allow those roaches a little bit more freedom to move around and attack. And here we have another big engagement here as WhiteRa is trying to secure the gold expansion. Once again, beautiful force fields getting laid down by WhiteRa. Nerchio will have to fall back. He just doesn't have the right unit composition here to deal with those force fields. I really would like to see him back it up with maybe perhaps Hydras or burrowed movement for the roaches.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not take away from the fact as well that WhiteRa does have 1-1 to his opponent's 0-1 at the moment, and that armor upgrade has actually done quite a bit. One fungal does go down, but there are still just too many forces out here for WhiteRa. And another thing this is doing, WhiteRa not losing all that many forces every attack has forced Nerchio into producing nothing but units. He has not been able to reestablish that great economy he had going earlier. He may have more workers at the moment, but the problem is that he has all of them on just 2 bases, and now WhiteRa is trying to bring in as many photon cannons as he can, but it looks like he may be opting for some sort of a trade situation as WhiteRa going to make his way in, and there is almost nothing defending this natural. That macro hatch for sure is going to go down. Nice force fields once again. It's going to force all of those units through a choke. Nerchio knows he can't engage there because those Stalkers will just rip him apart, and WhiteRa, even playing at that significant supply disadvantage, significant worker advantage, is certainly making gains and destroying so much of Nerchio's forces.
I actually don't like that trade at all for Nerchio, because he basically just he tried to take out the gold, which he did do, but he lost his own third, and really right now it's 2 base to 2 base. I feel like if Nerchio was going to try to trade, he should have committed to the trade and went for the natural rather than pulling back, because he had a shot right there to maybe take out the natural of the Protoss and make it a 2 base to 1 base situation, but instead he decided to fall back, and now he's in a pretty grim situation because he doesn't have the extra hatchery over the Protoss. And once again, he's going to try to remedy that by grabbing a double expand. He's expanding to both the 9 and the inside 5 o'clock location. So I like that, but he's going to have to hope and basically rely on hope and prayer that WhiteRa doesn't attack for about the next 5 minutes if he wants to be able to squeeze out that double hatch economic advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Nerchio has actually lost 10 drones during this process as well because he was way oversaturated before, put some of those into buildings, but look how few minerals he has over at his main. Look how little mining he's already doing over at his natural. Less than 2,000 resources left over there. So he's finally transferring something over to the inside 5 o'clock like you were talking about. WhiteRa is kind of undergoing the same situation. He has to watch out for this little run by his Zerglings here, though.
Too much damage, I don't think. Well, maybe if WhiteRa doesn't notice, he's going to lose about 2 or 3 probes. But like I said, that photon cannon, man, just provides so much levels of defense, and it's going to kill a couple more probes. The thing about Zergling run-ins is a Protoss player can easily warp in Zealots. I was expecting WhiteRa to basically react to that a little bit quicker, but he did lose about 5 or 6 probes. So good little attack right there by Nerchio.
Yeah, we'll see how WhiteRa decides to follow this up. He is getting quite a big force. He's actually going to a Stargate as well. Looks like the Zerglings are going to make another pass here. There is already a Zealot coming in, and 2 more that already were down. They're going to start going after these Zerglings. The Zerglings are going to fall. They do manage to take out another 3 probes, however, though. So quite a bit of damage still being done. WhiteRa actually going up to Void Rays as well. Says if you're just going to go nothing but roaches, then I'll go something that can attack air, and that's going to force Nerchio to go over to a Hydra Den or just commit himself to some sort of a, well, he does have Neural Parasite coming up, so we'll be able to control them, and Fungals will do some damage, but the Void Ray is certainly going to be much stronger. Nerchio getting himself in position, though, and a couple of roaches are running by just to pick off a couple of workers. I do like Nerchio's economic harassment, what he's done so far, using relatively cheap units to do significant amounts of economic damage, but WhiteRa now just continually reinforcing this, and it looks like we're going to have a bit of a standoff for a little while.
Yeah, also WhiteRa trying to move around this bottom side with some Zealots, but that easily gets dispatched by Nerchio and his forces. I think, Cats, this game is really going to boil down to a super late game where both players kind of control their side of the map. The sad thing here for WhiteRa is he doesn't know about that 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock expansion. And he kind of has his Void Ray over here to the right. Unfortunately, it didn't go to the left. It could have maybe spotted that hatchery. So WhiteRa right now doesn't realize that he is actually down a base, which is going to hurt. I like the idea of going into Void Rays here, but moving out with this lone Void Ray does put it at risk from dying to these massive amounts of infestation. It looks like that Void Ray will go down. Force Fields once again trying to lock those roaches, but only catching a couple, and it looks like they found a little bit of a hallway to kind of squeeze themselves out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. And now Nerchio is actually maxed, so he can start throwing away units and reproducing. Oh, wow. Fungal actually pretty aggressive there. Nice job by Nerchio. Wow, a lot of damage being done. WhiteRa has been playing at such a disadvantage for a while now. He's going to try and come back. He force fields again, but all that's really doing is just not allowing that force to engage. It's not really trapping any units, allowing WhiteRa to kill them. So Nerchio is still going to be able to engage with the vast majority of his forces, and those Fungals are so good. They're pinning WhiteRa to his place. They're taking out Stalker after Stalker, and Neural Parasite taking over a couple of the Immortals. And look at that, Nerchio actually swings around from the back as well. So many units are going to die here. Nerchio is in complete control of this battle. What an amazing amount of damage done.
That was just a superior micro battle by Nerchio. He's able to micro his infestors and get the mind controls off on those infestors, on the Immortals, and he was using Fungal Growth so well. He constantly used Fungal, didn't allow the shields to recharge, which is so important when you're utilizing Fungal Growth against Protoss players. And Cats, I think right now Nerchio is going to overpower WhiteRa. WhiteRa now transitioning into Colossus. Does he have enough to hold this off? Thankfully, he has a Void Ray still in the skies, and there's no more infestors on the ground, so that Void Ray can take out all these roaches theoretically, but I don't know, not before he loses his Nexus, and the Colossus goes down as well. This is just rough for WhiteRa.
That's really bad for him. Yeah, I mean, he's down to so little mining over it as natural now. Just going to be a matter of time before he's not doing any mining whatsoever. Looks like Nerchio is going to clean that up. He's putting down the Hydra Den, so he'll be able to attack air in just a second as well. But really, he's just going to have enough units that he'll be able to just obliterate his opponent. Here comes WhiteRa. He's going to try and make his way in, but there's already a few more infestors coming up that have the ability to Neural Parasite and go ahead and throw down a little bit of Fungal Growth as well. So Nerchio well in control. He's now mining off of 2 bases, about to move to a third here whenever this gold finishes, so his economy looks great. Looking at the tab, he's up by about 35% in economy. He's also mining at over double the gas rate, so he's going to be able to produce those Hydralisks in mass. Here come the Void Rays. The Void Rays doing some damage to the hatchery, but the Fungal Growths, the Infested Terrans, and the Queens. Oh, nice transfusions going down. The one Void Ray falls in a second, going to fall down in just a second.
Great little defense right there against those Void Rays. Didn't want to lose that gold hatchery. And if you notice right now, our Zerg player Nerchio controls all the expansions on his side of the map. Now he's trying to move in to take out this gold and finish off WhiteRa. Gets a great snipe right there on the Colossus. Doesn't really need to worry about anything that WhiteRa can field now because he's just got such a large massive swarm of roaches on the ground that no matter what WhiteRa produces now, except I guess a bunch of Void Rays, he doesn't have to worry. And he is going to fall back now, but not before he picks off the Nexus. And killing that Nexus off was the primary, basically what he wanted to do to win the game. And yeah, it looks like WhiteRa is going to GG out.
Forced to GG. Breaks my heart a little bit, HD. But WhiteRa forced to GG. And yep, so spoiler alert to those who haven't been watching the other qualifiers. This is actually done post all 4 of the qualifiers that we've done. Never fear, though, WhiteRa will actually qualify during a future qualifier. So, but congratulations to Nerchio. Well fought. Mass roaches, superior production, really winning the day. Really shocked that WhiteRa, especially when he had control of so many forces and had control of the middle of the map there for a while, didn't try and establish that expansion a little bit earlier.
You know, I'm surprised that WhiteRa wasn't able to capitalize on the fact that he sniped the inside 5 o'clock expansion early on in the game, because that's when he set himself at a very good position and put himself on a platform to take this game away. But I feel like he never really pressed his advantage, and basically allowing that 10 o'clock, the double expansion, the 10 o'clock and the inside 5 o'clock to go up at the same time and never doing anything about it. That's what really kind of cost him the game.
Yep, absolutely. I agree 100%. So, guys, we're going to head into game number 2. Don't go anywhere. Nerchio versus WhiteRa. Coming back at you in just a second.